Welcome to episode 5 of the Fitness Pollinator podcast. I'm joined today by Robbie Farlow of SideQuest Fitness. Thanks for coming on the show, Robbie.
Well, thank you for having me on, Travis.
So let's just get right down to it. Tell me a little bit about yourself. Who is Robbie Farlow and what is SideQuest Fitness?
I am just the socially awkward ginger kid who, growing up, loved Captain America, Michael Jordan, and all things Star Wars. I was the fat kid growing up. Not like super fat, but
Just
at
a
least
little.
enough that I was like 30 pounds heavier than all the kids in like third or fourth grade. Then they all caught up to me, so I was sort of like, ha, take that. But I played sports like all year round, all the time. But, I was kind of lazy. I wasn't super awesome at baseball, so I sat on the bench. I was a goalie in soccer because I didn't want to run.
Dude, me too. I was the best goalie in third grade, though. Ask anybody.
Oh yeah, I was totally the best goalie ever. I mean, when the goal was like 3 feet wide.
Yeah. I can't turn left, so it had to be really small.
But yeah, so I played sports my whole life. Pretty much year round, but I was never like in shape. I just sucked at running, I guess. And then, I got into weightlifting a little bit in high school, took a class, and, really enjoyed that. And then got into college, touched the weight room maybe twice. And then, left college really heavy. And topped out at like 212, and at that point I was like, okay, that's it. I got to get in shape. And then while I was living in New York, just threw myself head first into learning about fitness, learning about all the aspects, getting reacquainted with the weight room, trying to figure out diet stuff. I have experimented with paleo. I've experimented with eating every 2 hours, which, dear God, that's like a second job. But I found a passion for it. I went to school for theater, and I love being around people and interacting with people. And I think, as I was talking to people at the gym, and as I got myself in shape and started helping other friends get in shape, I just enjoyed it. And I found that, similar to my geek aspect of loving video games and playing role-playing games, that fitness is kind of like a real-life role-playing game. Like, I get to level up, and like my biceps get a little bigger, or maybe my back isn't as strong as it could be, so I focus on that for a little while and level my back up.
It's funny you say that because I feel exactly the same way about fitness being just a game. Like, when I was in 5th grade, my teacher did fantasy basketball with us, and like, it was just my fondest memory maybe of my whole like elementary experience was playing fantasy sports with my teacher. And so I would we did the draft and we did the lineups every week, and we added up the scores by hand because it was before like there was really like Yahoo Sports for fantasy sports. But anyway, for me, like, now when I'm writing a workout, it feels kind of the same like drafting my fantasy team. But it's real actually, which is just funny. But it has that same like creative vibe to it, and there's like a tangible result, like my biceps are bigger, or like I'm bringing my my back strength up to meet my bench press strength, stuff like that.
It's funny you mentioned that, because as you said that fantasy basketball, it took me back to when I was a kid. So I've always been sort of like a creative person, and I used to write like detective stories when I was a kid.
Cool.
But the thing that I did it for the longest time, is I kept playing basketball in this like 6-foot plastic goal that like 4-year-old kids play on until I was like in probably like fourth grade.
Dude, we had those in our 5th grade classroom with the same teacher who did the fantasy sports.
Yeah, here's the crazy thing. I actually created an entire league and like scripted out things that would happen, and like how I would like hit the game-winning shot, or how we would go in the playoffs, and there'd be this like 5 seconds to go, and I make this Michael Jordan move, and fadeaway jumper, he wins. So like I used my imagination as a kid in like everything that I did. And it's kind of funny that you say that right in a program, because I find that with my clients as well, that I kind of think, okay, so they have this goal. How do I build them up to that? Because like you can't just throw in everything.
Yes.
You got to build a base. You got to get that base strength, and then you build up on top of that. So it's kind of like I get to create a story, with my clients, which is something that
Wow.
I try to do with them. I ask them what their favorite superhero is, or who they imagined they were as like when they were a superhero as a kid, when they were the superhuman, Joe or whatever his name is. When you were Super Joe as a kid, what did you imagine yourself always doing? And then trying to play on like, think about that when you're in the gym. Think about what Joe would do in real life when like crazy stressful things come up, and how would Super Joe attack that?
That's
Because I don't
that's
think we ever
awesome.
have to grow up. Like being an adult sucks. Paying bills sucks. Rent, like it all sucks. So can't we just have a few moments of like being kids again? And that's what I look for, in fitness and trying to make it fun for people.
That's cool. I was just reading an article the other day by actually a former guest that you had on your podcast, Jessie Nealand. She was talking about uh, seeing yourself as more athletic, and having that sort of confidence. And so you just took a step up by imagining that you're a superhero. Like I always loved Superman, so I could go into the gym and like, I don't know, pretend I'm flying when I'm on the pull-up bar or something like that. But I really like that, and the idea of creating a story, with the progression of the exercises. That's cool. So
Yeah. Go
yeah, go
ahead.
ahead. What were you gonna say?
Well, I was going to say, stories are a big part of like I think it's what makes us human. I don't know what a dog thinks. Maybe dogs have stories. I just assume that they just think about licking themselves, eating food, and occasionally peeing on your furniture when you don't pay them any attention because you have a Jack Russell who wants constant attention. Um, but like stories are what makes us human. It's the reason we love movies. It's the reason like video games have gotten so much better since it was more than just I'm this random plumber jumping on a turtle. Like there are stories that engross you in it, and I
Video
think if you
games.
can apply that storytelling to your own life,
Yeah.
there's a great book that I got from my mother-in-law, which I'm the world's worst reader. You're the world's best reader from what I've seen on your website. Um, and it talks about our mind is a placebo, that we can kind of create our own identities just by thinking it. Sort of like Stuart Smiley from Saturday Night Live. I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me. And if you kind of tell yourself this story for a while, you can kind of create your own confidence to go after the things that you want to go after. But you don't want to go to like a Kanye-esque kind of style of like mental thinking. Like you want to create some confidence, but you don't want to go to a Kanye level. But I got to finish that book because I want to work on that article because I did that for myself in college. I had no confidence whatsoever.
You were a theater
Like,
major though. Didn't you have to act and stuff?
I did on stage, but that's the thing is that like
Different.
being on stage, it's completely different than anything else because the audience is there, but you're also like if you're in a comedy and they laugh, you're like people like me, okay. But when you're on stage, you're not being you. You get to embody a character. In all actuality, what that really means is that most people, that character is inside of them, so they kind of get to discover their own person that they have deep inside, which is what I loved about theater is I was able to get out there and realize, wow, I can do some of the things that like I've always wanted to do as a Tom Hanks or a Kevin Spacey. So it was a great confidence booster for me, but it did allow me to kind of tell my own story and be like, all right, now who do I want Robbie to be? I can create myself. This is what I can do in my life.
Has that helped you with fitness?
It has. I think I have not, except for, well, okay, I did. I had a failure this fall. I have always wanted to hit 225 on a bench.
Hey, that's
Um,
been my goal forever too.
I
I'll get
I
there one
had
day.
I have no upper, like, even as a kid, like, I played all lower body sports, soccer, basketball, and sitting on the bench in baseball. But, I didn't have a lot of upper body strength. It literally took me a year of training my ass off to do a pull-up. Just one. Like, I was lat pulling down as hard as I could. I'm like, yeah, I'm to 180 pounds. And then, like, I go to the pull-up, and I'm like, I can't do it.
Yep.
So I think, creating that that confidence and knowing that, you know what, I've done so much and I can continue to do more. I just have to give myself the time, and I have to continue grinding just like an RPG and just level up. I will eventually get there. I just got to keep going.
Yeah.
But I think that has helped me definitely when I do fail to go, you know what? It's not a failure. I've come so far. Like, I literally have added 40 pounds to my bench. Not hitting 225 kind of sucks, but look what I did to get there.
Yeah. And that what you said about, working for a year to get a pull-up, that's awesome, because I imagine a lot of your clients and a lot of my clients are always working towards their first pull-up. And so if you can go through that experience and be able to be like, hey, look, it took me a year too, or like, that's really meaningful, and you can understand really personally what they're going through.
Yeah, and honestly, the pull-up is one of the hardest things, because for so many people, if you're losing weight, you're already, fairly heavy, and your legs are pretty strong. Your back might be strong, but getting that, getting that pull-up is rough, because you have to pull your whole weight.
I actually just wrote about this. My old boss, he's 6'5", 260, and so we did a little video of him and me doing the same exercises. So, like, we were both deadlifting 135, and that's my body weight, so you could tell that it was a challenge for me, but it was his warm-up weight, And then we went to the pull-up bar, and so all the other exercises we did 3 reps, but we only did 2 pull-ups, because for him, pull-ups are a strength exercise. To do 2 really clean ones is kind of not his max, but because he can do 6 or 8. But it's a challenge for even if you're strong. If you're a big guy or gal, then doing a pull-up is no joke. But it's such an important skill for anybody that I think it's a worthwhile endeavor.
Yeah, I think for me and for a lot of people, and including some of my clients, it's one of those things that you're like, oh, this is the bane of my childhood in gym class. Like, you just want to do it. You don't care how long it takes. All you want to do is one pull-up. Like, people will be like, I just want to do one. And I know for myself it was a justification for, you know what, screw you, PE teacher. I totally did this.
Absolutely. You can go back and be like, hey, I couldn't do any when I was 10 years old, but look at me now.
Yeah.
So here's a question that you actually – so we should preface this by saying that I talked to you last week, and I'm going to be coming up on your podcast. So you have a pretty awesome podcast. I don't know how many episodes you have so far, but it's pretty
30?
extensive. Yeah, and some incredible guests. So what I wanted to know is a question that you had asked me is why you started the podcast.
I did a podcast in college. One of my best friends and I were just sitting around one day, and we were kind of wasted, as you are in college.
Sure.
And we were like, dude, we don't have a radio station. We should start a podcast. So we started a podcast, and, we tried to play music that no one had really ever heard of, because MySpace was still there. So we were sort of like plugging MySpace artists.
What genre of music was this?
Oh, this was anything and everything. I mean, technically I found out we probably shouldn't have played music, but, we just won't mention that. So I ran that for a year, and we did some fun stuff. I just tried to create like a radio, show. I graduated and stopped doing that. And then once I kind of got into fitness, like last October, I was like, you know what? Photocracy should have a podcast. Like, I love the community.
Yeah.
It's what's
Rewind and tell my audience, in case they don't know, what Photocracy is.
Okay, so Photocracy is a social network that 2 guys started to turn fitness into a game, which is Dick Talons and Brian Wang.
Okay.
So they created this social network where you could record your workouts, where you could chat with people, create groups, and get fit together as a community, but level up, have quests that you can go after, because they were two, huge game geeks as well. And I was like, man, they should really have a podcast. So Brian allowed me to call it the unofficial podcast of Fitocracy. And I was like, you know what? I want to interview coaches because I think a lot of these coaches have great stories that people don't know about. And I think people should know that, these coaches and the trainers out in the world struggle with the same issues that everyone else struggles with. Like,
Sure.
Yes, they've created systems to make their life better. But you know what? A lot of the guys I've spoken to are like, dude, if I open a jar of peanut butter, like, I'm going to eat the whole jar of peanut butter.
Hashtag gains.
Like for me, if you put me anywhere near Ben and Jerry's, like it's done. It's done. Like I'm gonna eat all of it. But I created the show because I want people to see that there are some great stories out there, and hopefully some of the coaches can inspire people. Some of the coaches that are new, some of the young guys out there can kind of get a name out there so that people can know who they are and where they come from. And just for me, I was in the process of reading my certification book and studying for my test. And I want to learn from some of the best out there, and creating those contacts in the industry and learning from some of the best trainers in the world has been an amazing experience for me.
Yeah, I mean, that's awesome. Looking at the list of people you've had on, it's just like a who's who of people in the industry. And
I just, when I started it, I was like, you know what? F it. I'm just gonna swing. I'm swinging for the fences. I'm gonna go for whoever.
Why not?
Yeah. I mean, they can say no.
And then they'll be sorry.
Yeah.
Years later, when they see how huge you are.
Well, we'll see. This has been the best month so far.
That's great.
It's slowly growing and getting there. So I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm also glad we could dispel the myth of Fitocracy as some sort of evil government that forces people to exercise. Because that's what the name sounds like, but
it does. It kind of sounds like it's some geopolitical kind of thing. But it's I have tracked my workouts and used it for a long time, and I really enjoy it.
Cool. If you had to pick just one of the guests that you've had on as your favorite, who would it be?
Oh, now you're gonna make me piss some people off.
All right, I'll let you slide with 2 or 3.
Oh, let me slide with 2 or 3. Honestly, Matthew Ibrahim was one of my favorites because he and I we just started chatting for 20 minutes before, and then went, oh wait, we should start the show, and then chatted for half an hour afterwards. So that was a good time, and Matt's really, 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 really intelligent, knows a lot about mobility and a lot of great insights. Brian Cron was one of my favorites as well. He's one of my first guests. He's been in the industry for a very, very long time, and I think he's one of the guys that he's older, but he's got a lot of wisdom that I think a lot of young guys need to look at in understanding, how the body works, how to attack gaining muscle or losing fat, and just how to be a person to other people. I really enjoyed him. Oh man! And then actually, I enjoyed having Sons of Strength on. I got to kind of bro out with those guys for a little bit. We also were drinking lots of whiskey because it was 2 days before Christmas. So that was a good time.
They're cool. I've spoken to them a little bit before too.
Yeah.
I listened to your episode with Greg Knuckles, and it was pretty funny. Midway through, he gets up and brings back a bottle of beer that you guys were talking about, and then he discovered that you guys were only doing audio. That was a riot. Yeah,
oh man, I can't wait to have a beer with Greg in Kansas City for the fitness summit.
Yeah.
When he did that, I was like, oh, dude, don't 3 chucks. I want to go buy 3 philosophers right now.
Yeah.
Oh.
So you're recently married. It was 2014 at some point, and you just wrote a blog post comparing marriage and fitness. How'd you come up with that? And can you talk a little bit about the connection?
I don't even know how I came up with that. I guess I was thinking about like fitness as a commitment. And I had thought about, oddly enough, I have a lot of blog posts that I've been thinking about for like 6 months, and my brain, like, I get on overdrive. My brain just starts moving like crazy fast at times, and then I get, even my wife said it like yesterday. She's like, you get really gung ho, and then you kind of like tire yourself out, and then your brain kind of like goes into a slog for like a week or so. And I've done that with blog posts, and I thought about that one for a while. And then Jason from Anyman Fitness had said something in a conversation, and I was like, oh, okay, that's a sign from the universe. I should probably go ahead and like type this up. So I typed it up and put it out there, and then I rewrote it and re-put it back out there once I officially got SideQuest Fitness launched.
Cool.
But I think it's a commitment. It's so easy to just kind of not go through life, it's so easy to go through life and just eat whatever, not pay attention to what you're doing, and not be cognizant. But it's a commitment that you make to yourself. And then I thought about that, and I was like, but it's also a commitment I've made to my wife. Like, in one of my blog posts, I talk about why I train, and one of the reasons I train is her. Like, she deserves to have someone. Like I said, till death do us part, and it's kind of selfish if I don't take care of myself in my own health and my body to not make it to that till death do us part. So a part of it is her, a part of it is me. So I should be strong. I should be healthy. I can't stop a van randomly coming around a corner and hitting me, or a meteorite, destroying half of Earth. Do what?
If you get strong enough, who knows?
I mean, if I get strong enough. But and I don't know what is in my genetics. I could wake up tomorrow and be like, oh man, I don't really feel good. Go to the doctor, and he's like, you have a brain tumor. Oh, like things could happen, but the things that I can control are the things I should try and control. Mm-hmm. So I made a commitment to her, but I've also made a commitment to myself. And they're both, marriage is a long haul. Like, you've got to work together. You've got to give up sacrifices, just like with diet and exercise. I want to eat a whole pizza, but is it beneficial? Not really. Mm-hmm. So I think the commitment aspect of both of those kind of fit hand in hand.
Very cool.
So that's kind of where it came from.
Yeah. Even I discovered yesterday, even if the food is very healthy, for instance, a chicken, you should never eat the whole thing. I did it yesterday. I'd always wanted to. Actually, I only ate about 90% of it, but I ate about 90% of a chicken all by myself. Really proud of myself. I did that at lunch, and then I was smoked for the rest of the day. I couldn't do anything. I was too weighed down. So
I think I've done that with. I had an epic cheat day like last year where I ate. I think I ate like a pizza and like 3 pints of Ben & Jerry's, Taco Bell breakfast, and I hated myself the next day. So I think it's just one of those. No.
I didn't even hate myself because the chicken's good for you, but it was still stupid. I could have eaten half the chicken and then had a productive rest of the day. Instead, I was trying to challenge myself. But
sometimes it's those things you got to find the things that work and the things that are really bad ideas.
Now I know. Who have some of your greatest influences been in terms of reading and buying their products and stuff like that in the training world?
My listeners on my podcast know the man that sort of got me into fitness and made me like go, oh my God, I'm not alone in the world. There's a geek who loves emo music and talks about Star Wars. Is definitely John Romanello. Roman has probably influenced me the most in training, in how to look at yourself, as a man as you get older. He's had some great posts about like Washington's like 100 rules and how he redid them for himself and applying those to his life.
He's the man.
Yeah, and now I will say as I've learned and experimented, I've changed some of the, I guess, the cornerstones of his approach to fitness and nutrition and diet. But
you take what works and you throw away the rest.
Right, and he's got great systems, and what his stuff is amazing and it works. I just I don't necessarily want to eat 200 plus grams of protein a day because it's really expensive.
Yeah, that's it.
But yeah, and then things like so him, and then definitely Mike Vacanti has been a huge influence. I did Roman 16 Weeks, the Sexiness program last year that he coached through Fitocracy with, and, cool. And Mike was kind of running a lot of that, so I've spoken with him. But then, a lot of the guys that are the big names in like Proper Form, people like Tony Gentlecore, Brett Contreras. I believe if you want to be the best, you've got to learn from the best. If you want to lift to get strong, you need to lift with people who are stronger than you.
Yeah.
I'm only going to get better by reading the guys that really know what they're talking about. But yeah, definitely, of course, the big names in the biz. And then when I need motivation, I just like to go online and listen to Arnold Schwarzenegger yell at me. Absolutely. Put the cookie down! Put it down!
Hey, did you see the other day on Reddit, Arnold Schwarzenegger responded personally to somebody who had a bad day at the gym? It was amazing.
Yeah. He randomly shows up in like the fitness subreddit, and as soon as like he comes in and like makes a comment, all of a sudden that place blows up. Like every bro on our fitness is just like like they just. It's crazy. Like he just comes in, says something, and people freak out.
Yeah, it was.
But no,
it was inspirational
that's awesome.
For sure.
Yeah, and he's Arnold. Like he's been there, he's done it. Like the man moved over here and like was working construction and lifting weight. Like I want to know. Like I still want to know just from him. Like, was there a period, because he seems like he was just so positive all the time and always, gung-ho, and like, was there a period where you just like sat at home and like ate a pint of ice cream and just like cried as you watched Sound of Music or something? Like, where was your down period, Arnold? Like,
yeah. He was looking a little, not, in his heyday, but recently, maybe like 10 years ago, he was looking a little flabby in the tabloids. Now he's hard as a rock again. But
well, I guess when you're governor, there's a lot of stress, and your body's releasing a lot of cortisol. So.
Yeah, you probably have less time to hit the gym.
Yeah.
So here's a question that I was recently asked in an interview, and I thought it was really good, and it took me a second to come up with my answer. It was, do trainers need trainers too? And you mentioned that you had done John's program through Fitocracy. What do you think?
I do. I have to confess right now, I am not with a coach or a trainer.
Sure.
I'm doing an experiment on myself right now.
You're the best subject for it.
There will be like a 3-part article eventually on this. But I'm in a deep cut, and then I'm going to start reverse dieting back up to see how it works and to learn on my own from that. And I could hire a coach for it, but I kind of want to just figure it out on my own. But yeah, I do. I think that depending on your goals, it's a lot easier to, because sometimes you just like, and I'll admit, like I'm trying to plan my stuff out and think about, okay, if I create this as a program for my clients, what will work and what won't. Mm-hmm. But there are some days where I'm like, screw it. I'm just going to do curls.
That was me yesterday.
Right. But I think, yes, you need a coach. A majority of the time, it is good to have a coach because it allows you the ability to be like, okay, I don't have to program for myself. I've got all these other people that I'm working with. Like, I can let them worry about it, and they just tell you what to do, and you go and you do it. And if you need some nutrition advice, then you do your thing. But yeah, I do. I think depending on your goals, if you want to get stronger, it's good to have a coach. If you want to lose fat, it's good to have a coach. And I think a lot of trainers sometimes just they get burned out. It happens. We all get burned out. I mean, actors do it all the time. They just get burned out because it's a grind. It really is. And you show up every day at work and it becomes monotonous, and your workouts become monotonous, and life has its own stresses. And sometimes you just need to be like, you know what? Someone else do this, design my own stuff. Just tell me what to do and I'll do it.
Yeah.
And then you kind of reignite your own passion.
Yeah. My answer was that we're our own worst enemies because we'll just do the stupidest things.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'll do stuff that I would never have anybody do. But I'm like, oh, I don't care if I get injured. I'll try this. But one approach that my friend uses, which I really like, he's a CrossFit owner of a box, and he'll work with. He's worked with like an Olympic lifting coach. He worked with a guy who was a bodybuilder doing bodybuilding, so he could improve upon the areas that he was less familiar with. Now he's working with a guy who mostly trains pro basketball players. So just like identifying your weak areas and then doing training with somebody who is an expert in that is the best way to learn, like better than reading any book.
Oh, no, I totally agree. The Olympic lifts right now, I admit I would never give anyone because I'm not completely confident in doing them myself. But I actually am luckily trained. Well, I'm shadowing at a gym here in Richmond a couple nights a week until my wife gets done with grad school and I can officially go full time at a gym. But he does a lot of Olympic lifts, so he's kind of helping me learn them because they are they're technique based, and a bench press you can learn a lot of techniques for, but most of the time, if you've been in a weight room or you watch a few videos, you can kind of understand how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of those are they use a lot more muscles. There's a lot more technique to it. And yeah, I agree. You need a coach to kind of go through some of that with you.
Yeah. My lifting partner just hit her PR for the snatch. And I was so proud because A, it's like maybe 5 pounds less than mine. And B, I haven't coached that many people in the Olympic lifts before. So
yeah.
The fact that hers probably looked better than mine, and she is lifting almost as much as me, it was one of my prouder moments, for sure.
Yeah. Oh man,
lift that complicated.
Oh, the snatch scares me. I want to attack the Olympic lifts, but something about them just still scares me.
But even the best coaches, like at Cressy Sports Performance, they don't use the Olympic lifts. One, I guess, because these are $1 million athletes and they don't feel the need to put them through that sort of risk, and there are other alternatives. But two, they're just not necessarily as confident in coaching the lifts as they could be. So, yeah, not for everybody, but I think definitely a great tool if you have it.
Yeah.
All right, last question for you, because I know you've got big dinner plans.
Spaghetti and meatballs.
All right, carbo loading. I like it.
That's right. It's my refeed day, son. I've already had my pint of Ben & Jerry's, my rice.
Word. All right, so what are your future goals in terms of both the podcast and training?
Man, future goals of podcasts and training. Well, my future goal right now is to get through this cut and start reverse dieting back up so I can eat more food because, dear God, 1,900 calories sucks.
That's not a lot.
No, it's not. I said I wasn't going to go below 2,000, but I don't know. I'm crazy. Whatever.
Yeah, no, it's the best experiment. That's awesome.
Yeah. So I'm only doing like 3 weeks of that, and then I'm done with that. So kind of learning from that. Training wise, probably midsummer in the fall once we get established wherever my wife and I are going to be once she gets a job post grad school. I honestly just want to focus on getting stronger. I want to focus on learning, more of the Olympic lifts and applying those to my training and learning how to coach those. Eventually get my deadlift up over 400. I teeter on squats above 300, but after I couldn't fit in my pants last year, I was like, nope, I'm taking squats out for a little bit. But I know they're going to help the deadlift, and I know all of that. It's just, I don't want to buy new pants. Yeah, so getting my strength goals up, and then probably once I get over 400, I will say I'll take a break for a little while and just focus on like bodybuilding type kind of workouts and volume, but I'll still want to get stronger. I'm not going to lie. I want to be like Captain America because it's my favorite superhero. But for the podcast, I don't know. I got to make it more professional. I got to get a mic and make it seem more professional. But I have a goal of someday, having Roman on the show and talking, to Roman about fitness and all of that. And then definitely one day would love to have Tim Ferriss. Tim Ferriss has been a huge influence. I kind of wanted the podcast to be like the bastard love child of Tim Ferriss and Nerdist, where like we'll talk about nerdy stuff, but we'll talk about inspirational things as well, and like hacks that people use or whatever. But I would love to have him on the show just to talk about all the experimenting he's done on himself, because I think it interests me. But yeah, I want to grow it. I would love for it to be a fitness podcast that people talk about. It's slowly but surely building. I was doing 2 episodes a week for a while, but I had to go. Yeah, I had to go back to 1 because it was just it was a lot. It was a lot, and I hustled at first, which is anyone out there who wants to start a podcast, just do it. Even if you're just like taping yourself talking about the last episode of New Housewives of Orange County or whatever your passion is, just do it. Like, just go for it and throw everything you can into it for a while and just hustle your butt off. And hopefully, you can build something off of that. But yeah, it'll be nice someday to have, more listeners than I have ever had before. Like I said, this month has been the biggest, but it's been awesome. But,
quality, not quantity, right?
Yeah, and that's I would love to do multiple episodes a week. That'd be great, but people are very busy and people have a lot of things to do, and I like having 1 episode a week. I've got 30 episodes. If people want to listen to, they can catch up on all of them. By the time you caught up on them, it's probably going to be 5-6 weeks down the road, and you got 5 or 6 more episodes to catch up on.
Exactly. But even quality, not quantity, in terms of like the number of people who are following you, like it's just a number. But if they're actually listening and enjoying it, and you get that kind of positive feedback, then that's all you need.
Yeah.
And I for one can say that I've listened to a few of the back episodes on yours, and they're fantastic. So.
Well, thank you.
I've been telling all my friends.
Thank you. I've noticed I've had a few people like the page, and I'm like, yay! Thank you, Travis. But no, it always makes me smile, and I always feel good when people are like, oh yeah, I've heard of SideQuest, or yeah, I told people about it,
it's
or
awesome.
I listen.
I actually just got an inbox today. It was like, hey, I'm a big fan of yours. I'm like, wait, what?
That's the thing is, I think almost everyone does that. Is you're like, oh, I forgot. I'm actually putting things out there for people to listen to. Yeah. I guess people do listen to it.
Yeah, because if you don't get contacted, every time you write an article, you have no idea if people are really reading it or not. And it ends up that more people are than you think. So it's a good feeling.
It is.
Thanks so much for coming on the show. We kept it to our goal time or close to it. So.
Oh, awesome. Good, because I can smell the meatballs right now, and they smell tasty.
Nice. Enjoy.
I will. Thank you so much, Travis.
You're welcome. Thank you.